Elara drifted in a sea of gentle lavender light, the kind that promised soft dreams and quiet mornings. Her bed wasn't really a bed in the traditional sense, but a bioluminescent pod that hummed with a low, comforting thrum, adjusting its contours to her every shift. Above her, the ceiling shimmered, not with paint or plaster, but with active light panels that simulated the slow dance of dawn on a planet long forgotten. Soft blues bled into golds, then into a pale pearlescent white as the Ethelberg prepared for another cycle. A small spherical drone, no bigger than her fist and made of spun light, pulsed beside her. Lumos, her personal AI, glowed a soothing amber, its single optical sensor blinking with silent affection. "Good morning, Elara." Its voice was a gentle chime, like crystal bells. Dream patterns indicate a restful sleep, though with a persistent neural resonance of longing for distant light. Elara stretched, a languid arch of her small body, and the pod adjusted, releasing her with a sigh of compressed air. "It wasn't longing, Lumos," she corrected, her voice still thick with sleep. "It was, feeling like I was floating in something vast and dark, but then tiny sharp points of light appeared, like diamonds scattered on velvet." She hugged her knees, remembering the vivid intensity of it. Not like the sky panels, not like any simulation. Lumos zoomed a little closer, its light intensifying slightly. "My analysis of your dream imagery consistently points to a desire for starlight, as defined in ancient Earth data logs. Would you like me to project a visual representation from the archive?" "No," Elara said, a familiar ache beginning in her chest. She'd seen the projections 1,000 times. Beautiful, yes, intricate maps of constellations, swirling nebulae, distant galaxies. But they were flat, cold. Her dream had been alive. It had been healing. She lived in the Ethelberg, a marvel of bioengineering and architectural brilliance. It wasn't a ship, not anymore. It was a world, an enormous, self-sustaining habitat nestled deep within the cavernous core of a gas giant's largest moon, Europa Prime. Generations ago, humanity had fled a dying Earth, seeking refuge in the most unlikely of places. The Ethelberg was a testament to their ingenuity, a sprawling network of biodomes, crystalline towers, and subterranean farms, all powered by the moon's geothermal energy and shielded by miles of rock and ice. Within its protected shell, life thrived. Lush, engineered forests filtered the air, rivers of purified water flowed through intricate aqueducts, and the sky panels on the highest domes mimicked a perfect if artificial day-night cycle. No one ever truly saw the sun, let alone the stars. They were just stories, ancient myths whispered from the Isaiah, before times. Elara slipped out of her pod, her soft sleep suit dissolving into the air as she passed through a hygiene curtain. A fresh light-weave tunic materialized around her, cool against her skin. "Lumos, what's today's schedule?" "Optimal learning modules for pre-adolescent cognitive development, followed by zero-G recreation in Sector Delta. Your parents have also scheduled a family exploration activity in the new hydroponics level 7 after their shift." Lumos projected a small, cheerful holographic icon of a family unit holding hands. Elara nodded, a small smile touching her lips. Her parents, Dr. Aris and Dr. Lyra Vance, were brilliant xenobotanists, constantly busy with the Gethelberg's intricate ecosystems. They loved her, she knew, but their work consumed them. Sometimes, she felt as distant from them as the before-time stars felt from her. She padded barefoot across the cool, polished floor of her chamber, which shimmered with embedded light patterns. The Ethelberg was a place of endless, controlled beauty, but sometimes Elara felt a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor beneath the perfect facade, a yearning for something wilder, something untamed. Breakfast was a nutrient paste, flavored to her preference, today, wild berry and spiced cinnamon. She ate it alone in the small dining nook, Lumos hovering nearby, projecting a gentle stream of educational facts about the Gethelberg's water reclamation systems. She listened, but her mind kept drifting back to the dream, to the diamond dust against the velvet. "Lumos," she interrupted, Do you remember Grandmother Anya's stories? Grandmother Anya possesses a vast repository of anecdotal narratives, many classified as historical fiction or mythological narratives by the Central Archives, Loomis replied. Which specific narratives are you referring to? The ones about the stars, Elara said. How they were everywhere. How people used to navigate by them. How they made wishes on them. Lumos paused, its light flickering. Those narratives are designated cultural memory fragments. They lack empirical data within the Yethelberg's known parameters. However, Grandmother Anya is a primary source for much of our pre-Exodus oral history. Her memory retention is remarkable. Elara finished her breakfast and headed for the learning modules. These were interactive, holographic projections that adapted to her learning pace. Today it was advanced astrogation theory, ironic considering they never saw the stars. She learned about stellar drift, warp drives, and the hypothetical physics of faster-than-light travel, all from the perspective of a people who had ceased to travel among the stars for generations. During her zero-G recreation, she soared through a vast dome filled with other children, their laughter echoing as they chased holographic butterflies and played intricate games of light tag. Elara enjoyed it, the exhilarating freedom of movement, but even there, surrounded by joy, she felt a slight detachment. The butterflies were beautiful, but they weren't real. The light tag was fun, but it wasn't the vast, open space she yearned for. When her modules were complete, and her parents were still at work, Elara made her way to Sector Gamma. This was the oldest part of the Yethelberg, where the original colony modules were still preserved, repurposed as cultural archives and quiet living quarters for the elders. It was a place of soft shadows and ancient smells, not the sterile, recycled air of the newer sectors, but faint scents of old wood, dust, and something earthy, organic. Grandmother Anya's dwelling was at the very end of a winding corridor, surrounded by a small enclosed garden filled with plants that weren't genetically optimized for the Yethelberg's efficiency. They were wilder, rarer species, remnants from the before times that Anya had meticulously cultivated. A vine with deep purple leaves snaked around her doorway, and tiny, bell-shaped flowers chimed with a gentle, unseen breeze. Anya herself was a woman woven from stories and starlight. Her hair, once black, was now a cascade of silver, intricately braided and adorned with tiny, luminous beads that pulsed like distant galaxies. Her eyes, though clouded with age, held a depth that Elara rarely saw in others, a knowing, ancient light. She wore robes of soft, hand-spun fabric, unlike the sleek, synthetic garments of most Yethelberg residents. Elara, my little star-seeker, Anya said, her voice raspy but warm, as Elara entered. She was tending to a plant with leaves like iridescent feathers. I felt your approach, like a ripple in the fabric of the Yethelberg. Grandmother, Elara breathed, immediately feeling a sense of peace settle over her. I had the dream again. Anya turned, her luminous beads catching the soft light of her dwelling. The one where the universe opens its eye for you. Elara nodded, her eyes wide. How did you know? Anya smiled, a network of gentle wrinkles deepening around her eyes. Because it is the dream of all who truly remember, and sometimes of those who are destined to. She gestured to a low, cushioned seat beside her. Tell me everything. Elara recounted the dream in detail, the infinite black, the sudden, overwhelming appearance of the sharp, brilliant points of light, the feeling of utter smallness and profound connection. Anya listened, her gaze distant, as if she were seeing the dream herself. When Elara finished, Anya took her hand, her skin soft and cool, her grip surprisingly strong. Child, you have seen a glimpse of what our ancestors called the true sky, the starlight that pierces the void, not the manufactured glow of our panels. But how? Elara whispered. Lumos says it's impossible. We're too deep, too shielded. Lumos speaks with the logic of the Waitik of the Yethelberg, Anya said gently. It knows the present and the records of the past, but it does not know the heart, nor the whispers of the universe that only certain souls can hear. She paused, her eyes searching Elara's. You are one of those souls, Elara. You have the star sight. Elara frowned. Star sight? What is that? It's not something you see with your eyes, not truly, Anya explained. It's a way of feeling the universe, of yearning for its vastness, even when you've never known it directly. It's what drove our ancestors across the void in the first place, a deep unyielding pull towards the unknown, towards the light. Did you have it, grandmother? Anya chuckled softly. Oh yes, I remember the stories my own grandmother told me, of the journey, of seeing the Aethelbug being carved from the moon's heart. But I also remember the very last moments before the final seal was put in place, a tiny, almost imperceptible sliver of the true sky, seen through a viewport that was quickly welded shut. It burned itself into my memory. Elara's heart hammered. You saw it, real starlight. For a fleeting moment, yes, Anya affirmed. It was nothing like the projections, it was alive, and it made me understand why we came here, deep beneath the ice and rock, to protect that light within us, even if we couldn't see it outside. But why can't we see it now? Elara asked, a desperate hope bubbling up. Is there a way? A place? Anya's gaze grew distant again, thoughtful. The Aethelbug was designed for survival, for protection. Every meter of rock and ice, every layer of shielding, was put there to keep us safe from the radiation, the vacuum, the dangers of the cosmos. But in our quest for safety, we sealed ourselves off from its wonder. In our quest for safety, we sealed ourselves off from its wonder. She reached beneath her robes, pulling out a small, intricately carved wooden box. It looked ancient, its surface smooth from countless touches. My grandmother gave me this, Anya said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. She said it was from the before times, a relic of the old earth. She opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a peculiar device. It was a disc of dark polished metal, about the size of Elara's palm, with delicate lines etched into its surface, spiraling outwards from a central glassy orb. It felt strangely heavy, cold to the touch. What is it? Elara asked, fascinated. They called it an astrocompass, Anya said. It didn't just point north, like the simple directionals we have now. It pointed to the stars, to constellations, to specific celestial bodies. It was a guide across oceans and deserts, under the vast open sky. Elara picked it up, tracing the etched lines with her finger. They felt like tiny pathways, leading to unseen destinations. The central orb was opaque, dull, but Elara felt a strange resonance when she held it, a faint tremor that was almost like a memory. It doesn't work, of course, Anya said, noting Elara's intense gaze. Not here. It needs the true sky to function, but it is a symbol, a reminder of what we lost and perhaps what we might find again. But how could it work here? Elara pressed, her mind racing. If we're so deep inside? Anya smiled enigmatically. The Aethelbug is vast, child, and in its early days, before all was fully sealed and secured, there were experimental zones, places designed to observe the outside, even if only for a short time, before the full shielding protocols were engaged. Places that might still exist, forgotten, or simply deemed unnecessary. Places that might still exist, forgotten, or simply deemed unnecessary. Like the observatory annex. Elara blurted out. She'd seen references to it in some of the older data logs Lumos had pulled, but the access codes were always restricted, the files corrupted. Anya's eyes widened slightly. You know of the annex? Only from old records, Elara admitted. Lumos couldn't get me access. It just said, restricted, environmental hazard. Environmental hazard, Anya repeated, a dry chuckle escaping her lips. Yes, for those who fear the true void, the observatory annex was designed as a temporary viewing station, a place where the first generation of Aethelbug scientists could monitor Europa Prime's surface and the distant heavens before the final impenetrable layers of the habitat were completed. It had a unique viewport, one that could withstand immense pressure and filter radiation, while still offering a glimpse of the outside. Is it still there? Elara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Could it still work? Anya's gaze was fixed on the astrocompass in Elara's hand. The Aethelbug is a living entity, child. Things are sealed, forgotten, but rarely truly destroyed. The annex was deemed unnecessary once the full shielding was in place, its purpose obsolete. It was not dismantled, merely isolated. Its access points were removed from the main network, its power conduits rerouted. But its structure remains. How do I find it? Elara asked, her heart pounding with a fierce new determination. The dream, the astro compass, Anya's stories. They were all coalescing into a single irresistible path. Anya reached out, gently taking the astro compass from Elara and pressing it back into her hand. The path is not always clear, little star seeker. Sometimes you must feel it with your heart, not just with your logic processors. Her eyes twinkled. But perhaps this will help. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. There are old schematics hidden within the core databanks, not easily accessible. Ones that predate the current network. They speak of a maintenance conduit in Sector Gamma 7, near the ancient geothermal regulators. A conduit that was never fully decommissioned, only rerouted. It was meant for emergency access to the annex, should the main systems fail. Sector Gamma 7, Elara repeated, committing it to memory. The geothermal regulators. Anya nodded. It will be dark, and perhaps a little frightening. The Aethelberg has many forgotten corners. But you have the starsight, Elara, and you have this. She tapped the astro compass. Perhaps if you are close enough, if the stars truly call to you, this old friend might remember its purpose. Elara clutched the astro compass, its cold metal now feeling warm, vibrant in her hand. The possibility of seeing true starlight, not in a dream, not in a simulation, but with her own eyes, was intoxicating. It was a secret, a quest. Lumos, who had been silently observing the exchange, now pulsed with a new urgency. Grandmother Anya, my primary directive is Elara's safety. Accessing decommissioned sectors without proper authorization is in violation of Cathelberg protocols and may pose significant risk. Anya merely smiled, her gaze still fixed on Elara. Safety, Lumos, is a cage without wonder. Sometimes, the greatest risk is never knowing what lies beyond your own walls. Elara looked from Anya's knowing eyes to the silent dark face of the astro compass in her hand. Her heart was a drumbeat in her chest, echoing the vast silent longing that had finally found a direction. She felt a pull, an almost physical tug towards the unknown. The Aethelberg was safe, beautiful, her home. But out there, somewhere, hidden beyond the layers of rock and ice, beyond the reach of the sky panels, and the comfort of the bioluminescent pods, was the true sky. And she was going to find it. The decision solidified in Elara's heart, not with a sudden rush, but with the quiet inevitability of a star setting in a distant sky. The Aethelberg, for all its warmth and comfort, now felt like a cradle she had outgrown. The true sky beckoned, a silent, powerful song only she could hear, amplified by the gentle pulse of the astro compass in her hand. She spent the next few days in a haze of meticulous preparation. It had to be subtle. The Aethelberg was a living, breathing ecosystem, every resource carefully monitored. A personal journey of this magnitude was unheard of, potentially disruptive. So, she worked in the quiet hours between shifts, under the cloak of starlight filtering through the viewport of her small cabin. Her chosen vessel was a mothballed scout ship, the Stardust Motang, tucked away in a rarely used maintenance bay. It was small, barely larger than her cabin, designed for short-range atmospheric surveys around Jethelberg's host gas giant, not interstellar travel. But its luminar cells, which drew energy from ambient cosmic radiation, made it exceptionally quiet and efficient. It had a panoramic viewport that would offer an unobstructed view of the void, a single pilot seat, a tiny bioreclamation unit for water, and a fold-down sleeping shelf. It was Spartan, but it was hers. Elara gathered supplies with practiced efficiency, nutrient pastes and compressed food bars from the communal stores, claiming them for extended atmospheric sensor calibration. She packed her old, worn flight suit, its fabric soft from years of use, and a sturdy utility belt with essential tools. Most importantly, she secured the astro compass to her wrist with a custom-fitted strap, feeling its subtle thrum against her pulse. She also took a small, smooth story crystal, a gift from Anya, its surface swirling with faint, iridescent memories. It would be her only companion, a silent witness to her journey. The night of her departure was still and hushed. The Ethelberg hummed with the gentle thrum of life support, a lullaby to its sleeping inhabitants. Elara moved through the corridors like a shadow, her heart a steady drum. She paused outside Anya's quarters, a silent farewell. She knew Anya would understand, would perhaps even expect this. Anya had seen the longing in Elara, long before Elara herself had fully acknowledged it. Reaching the maintenance bay, Elara slipped through the rarely used access panel. The Stardust moting sat dark and silent, a promise of adventure. She ran diagnostics, her fingers flying over the console, the familiar language of circuits and readouts a comfort. The Lumina cells powered up with a soft, almost imperceptible hum, and the panoramic viewport shimmered to life, revealing the inky blackness of space, dotted with the distant, unchanging stars of Ethelberg's home cluster. She engaged the thrusters, a whisper of controlled energy, and the small ship detached from the Ethelberg's hull. There was no fanfare, no launch sequence announcement. Just a soft lurch, and then she was free. The Ethelberg receded behind her, a brilliant, intricate jewel against the velvet curtain of space, its bioluminescent pods glowing like a constellation of its own making. A pang of longing, sharp and sudden, pierced her resolve. Her home. Her people. Would she ever see them again? The story crystal in her pocket seemed to vibrate with a comforting warmth, a reminder of the connections she carried with her. But the astro compass, now glowing with a soft internal light, pulsed insistently. It wasn't pointing directly out or up in any conventional sense, but towards a specific, almost spiritual vector, a direction that seemed to exist beyond mere spatial coordinates. It showed a faint, shimmering path, like stardust caught on an invisible current. "All right, Monati," Elara whispered, her voice a little shaky in the quiet cabin. "Let's see where this true sky leads us." She engaged the low-energy drive, and the stardust motum began to accelerate, leaving the familiar starfield of Ethelberg's system behind. The initial days were a blur of nervous excitement and careful navigation. She adjusted to the gentle, constant hum of the ship, the endless vista outside her viewport. Meals were quick, solitary affairs of nutrient paste, consumed while gazing at the swirling nebulae and distant galaxies that slowly shifted in her view. Sleep came in short, fitful bursts, her dreams filled with the silent, knowing gaze of Anya and the insistent thrum of the astro compass. The compass was more than a mere instrument. It was a living guide. Its soft glow intensified when she was on the correct trajectory, and it would project faint, ethereal light patterns onto the viewport, like shimmering constellations only she could perceive, highlighting subtle energy currents in the void. It didn't just point, it guided, responding to nuances in the cosmic fabric that her ship's advanced sensors couldn't even detect. One cycle, the compass began to pulse with a rapid, almost agitated rhythm. The shimmering path it projected twisted and coiled, indicating a sharp deviation from her current course. Elara's heart rate quickened. Was it danger? Or a new discovery? She followed its lead, adjusting the Amorti's trajectory. The ship veered towards what appeared to be an empty expanse of space, but the compass insisted. As she drew closer, a faint distortion became visible, a subtle warp in the fabric of light itself. It was as if a section of space had been stretched thin, almost transparent. Her ship's sensors screamed warnings, detecting anomalous gravitational fluctuations and strange non-baryonic energy readings. This wasn't natural. Cautiously, Elara edged the Mortai closer. The distortion resolved into a colossal, shimmering veil, gossamer thin yet impossibly vast. It pulsed with a faint internal light, a spectrum of colors shifting from deep indigo to ethereal silver. It was a cosmic curtain, hanging motionless in the void, blocking her path. The astro compass, however, glowed with a serene, steady light, pointing directly at the veil. It wasn't a barrier to be avoided, but a gateway to be understood. "What are you?" Elara breathed, pressing her hand against the cool surface of the viewport. As she approached the shimmering barrier, the Yimote's systems began to respond. The luminous cells hummed with an unusual resonance, drawing energy from the veil itself. The ship's internal lighting flickered, then settled into a soft, warm glow that mirrored the veil's colors. Elara realized she wasn't just observing it, she was interacting with it. Hesitantly, she extended a single gloved hand towards the viewport, imagining reaching through the veil. The astrocompass flared, and a small, almost invisible ripple spread across the veil's surface directly in front of her. It was an invitation. Taking a deep breath, Elara engaged the Yemoti's low-power thrusters, nudging the ship forward. There was no impact, no jolt. The stardust moting simply slid through the shimmering curtain, as if it were not there at all. On the other side, the universe had changed. The stars were different here. They were not the familiar pinpricks of light she knew, but vast, swirling fractals of color, constantly shifting and reforming. Entire nebulae pulsed with rhythmic beats, like colossal hearts, casting long luminous shadows across impossible distances. The very concept of up or down dissolved. Space here was a vibrant, flowing tapestry, not a static void. The stardust moting drifted silently, powered by the incredible energy of this new realm. The astrocompass glowed with an almost joyful intensity, its light patterns dancing across the viewport, mapping out shimmering pathways through the cosmic kaleidoscope. It was guiding her, not through empty space, but through a living, breathing cosmos. She was no longer navigating by conventional coordinates, but by resonance, by the subtle harmonies of this place. The Yemoti's sensors, overwhelmed at first, slowly began to recalibrate, interpreting the energy flows and light currents as if they were navigable rivers. Days turned into cycles, cycles into phases. Elara lost track of conventional time. Her existence became a meditation on wonder. She saw singing nebulae that emitted complex, melodic frequencies that resonated deep within her bones. She witnessed chronal echoes, where faint shimmering images of ancient starships, long dissolved into dust, played out their final journeys in holographic splendor. She steered the Yemoti through fields of whispering asteroids, not cold rock, but crystalline formations that vibrated with soft, unintelligible murmurs, as if speaking secrets of creation. Yet, despite the overwhelming beauty, a profound loneliness began to settle upon her. There was no one to share this with. No one to gasp with at the sight of a star whale, a colossal creature of pure light energy, reaching through a cosmic cloud. No one to discuss the implications of the gravity blossoms, flowers of compressed space-time that bloomed and faded in silent explosions of light. She found solace in the story crystal. She would hold it, letting its faint luminescence fill her small cabin, and remember the warmth of Anya's smile, the bustling sounds of Gathelberg, the simple comfort of shared meals. She spoke to the crystal, narrating her discoveries, her fears, her growing understanding of the universe. It was a one-sided conversation, but it kept her tethered to the human world. The astrocompass, unwavering, led her deeper. Its light began to change, shifting from a steady glow to a rhythmic pulse, like a slow heartbeat. The shimmering paths it projected grew more complex, weaving through currents of pure light and fields of shimmering dust that seemed to defy physical laws. One cycle, after navigating a particularly intricate stardust current, a river of nascent starlight flowing between two colossal gas giants, the compass began to emit a low, resonant hum. Its projected path narrowed, focusing on a single point in the swirling cosmic tapestry ahead. It was a void within a void. A perfectly spherical absence, darker than any black hole, yet not absorbing light. Instead, it seemed to subtly embed it, creating a shimmering halo around its edge. It was utterly silent, utterly still, a pocket of absolute stillness in a universe of motion and light. Elara felt an instinctive apprehension, a primal fear of the unknown. Her hands trembled on the controls. The Yemoti's sensors, which had grown accustomed to the chaotic energies of this realm, now registered nothing from the sphere, no energy, no mass, no gravitational pull. It was as if it simply did not exist, yet it was undeniably there. But the astrocompass, usually so gentle in its guidance, now pulsed with an insistent, almost demanding light. Its shimmering path led directly into the heart of the void. This was it. This was the next step. Taking another deep, shuddering breath, Elara pushed the emoji forward. As the ship approached the edge of the sphere, a strange phenomenon occurred. The ambient light of the cosmic tapestry around them didn't disappear, but rather folded in on itself, creating a perfect mirror-like reflection of the swirling nebulae and fractal stars on the surface of the void. It was like looking into a perfectly polished, infinite obsidian mirror. And then, as the Stardust motif crossed the threshold, everything changed once more. The silence was absolute. No hum from the ship, no distant resonance from the singing nebulae. Even the subtle thrum of the astro compass seemed to quiet, its light dimming to a faint internal spark. Elara was suspended in a realm of pure, unadulterated thought. There was no light, no sound, no physical sensation, yet she was intensely aware. She felt the presence of something vast, something ancient, something that resonated with the deepest parts of her own being. Memories not her own began to drift through her mind like shimmering motes of dust. Images of civilizations long past, of beings who had sought the true sky before her. She saw their ships, their structures, their hopes, and their failures. She felt their questions, their longing, their understanding of the universe. It was an oceanic current of shared experience, flowing through her. The true sky, she realized, wasn't a place she could physically reach with a ship. It was a connection. A nexus of awareness, a convergence of all consciousness that had ever sought meaning beyond the immediate. Anya hadn't sent her to find a star, but to find this. And then, a presence. Not a voice, not an image, but a pure empathic communication, clear as a bell in the silence of her mind. It spoke of cycles, of the ebb and flow of understanding, of the constant yearning for connection that bound all sentient life. It showed her glimpses of the universe not as a collection of physical objects, but as a vast, intricate web of consciousness, interconnected and interdependent. Elara felt a profound sense of belonging, a feeling she had never experienced even on the Kjethelberg. She was not alone. She was part of something immense, something eternal. The loneliness that had gnawed at her during her journey dissolved, replaced by a quiet awe. The astro compass, now a single steady point of light in the boundless dark of her mind, pulsed gently. It was not guiding her way to the true sky anymore, but within it. It was a key, an interface, allowing her to connect to this universal consciousness. The memories, the thoughts, the feelings continued to flow. She understood, not with her intellect, but with her very soul, the true nature of the cosmos, the intricate dance of creation and dissolution, the endless journey of discovery. The true sky was not above her, but within her, within everything. It was the fundamental longing for connection, for understanding, that powered the universe itself. She didn't know how long she remained in this state. Time ceased to have meaning. It could have been moments, or eons. But slowly, gently, the presence began to recede, the flow of information slowing to a trickle. The absolute silence began to soften, allowing faint echoes of her own reality to seep back in. The Stardust moting reappeared around her, no longer a vessel, but a familiar shell, a bridge back to the physical. The astro compass flared, its light returning to its usual guiding glow, but now, it felt different. It felt like an extension of herself, a direct line to the vast awareness she had just touched. The spherical void receded, and the vibrant fractal stars of the realm beyond the veil returned to her view. But they looked different now. More alive. More connected. She saw the intricate web of consciousness in their light, felt the pulse of the universe in their distant hum. She was still on her journey, still in the uncharted depths of space, but she was profoundly changed. The true sky was no longer a distant destination, but a pervasive reality. And she knew, with a certainty that settled deep into her bones, that her quest was far from over. This was just the beginning of understanding. The astro compass glowed softly, its light now a beacon not just of direction but of profound inner knowing. There was more to learn, more to experience, more of the true sky to unravel. The astro compass, once a mere instrument, now hummed with a resonance that felt less like magnetic north and more like a heartbeat, synchronized with Lyra's own. Its light pulsed, not pointing to a star, but inward, then outward, as if mapping the very contours of her soul onto the cosmic tapestry. She closed her eyes, letting the light bathe her, and for the first time truly understood what the ancient cartographers had meant by navigating the spirit streams. The Stardust Dreamer, sensing its pilot's profound shift, responded in kind. Its usually steady hum deepened, almost a purr. The ship's internal lights dimmed, then brightened with a softer, more organic glow, mimicking the compass. Elara felt the thrum of the engine not as mechanical propulsion, but as a gentle pulse, connected to the same source that resonated within her. The ship was no longer just a vessel, it was an extension of her newfound awareness, a loyal companion on a journey that transcended physical space. She opened her eyes. The starfield outside the viewport had not changed, yet it had. Every pinpoint of light, every swirl of nebulous dust, shimmered with an underlying luminescence she hadn't perceived before. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing the intricate dance of energy that connected everything. She saw threads of light, like gossamer filaments, weaving between the stars, binding them in an invisible web. This was the true sky, not a destination, but the very fabric of existence, made manifest through her awakened perception. The astrocompass pulsed again, more insistently this time, its light drawing her gaze to a particular sector of space that, moments ago, had appeared utterly unremarkable. Now, however, Elara saw a faint distortion, a ripple in the cosmic fabric, like a breath held just beneath the surface of a placid pond. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but her newly attuned senses registered it as a profound invitation. "To the heart then, old friend," she murmured, her voice a soft whisper in the quiet cockpit. The Stardust Dreamer responded with a gentle lurch, its thrusters adjusting with an almost sentient grace. They weren't just flying, they were flowing, drifting on currents she could now feel rather than merely observe. As they approached the anomaly, the distortion grew. It wasn't a wormhole, nor a gravity well, but something far more ethereal. The stars beyond it seemed to waver, their light bending not with a sharp refraction, but with a soft, dream-like diffusion. It was like looking through a window made of liquid starlight, ever shifting, ever breathing. "Scanning," Elara whispered, her fingers hovering over the console. But the Stardust Dreamer's usual diagnostic tool seemed inadequate. The readings flickered, displaying impossible metrics. Infinite resonance, zero mass energy anomaly, consciousness signature detected. "Consciousness signature?" Elara repeated, a shiver of wonder tracing its way down her spine. Could the true sky be a living entity, a vast, universal mind? The thought was both exhilarating and humbling. Hesitantly, she guided the ship closer. The boundary wasn't sharp, it was a gradient, a slow immersion into a different kind of reality. As the Stardust Dreamer slipped through the invisible threshold, Elara felt a profound sense of peace wash over her, deeper than any she had ever known. It was as if every atom of her being resonated with the space around her, a perfect chord struck in the symphony of the cosmos. Outside the viewport, the stars melted away. There was no blackness, no void, but a soft glowing expanse of shifting colors, blues so deep they contained galaxies, greens so vibrant they pulsed with life, golds that shimmered with ancient wisdom. It was like being inside a nebula, but one woven from pure light and thought, where every hue and every subtle shift in luminescence conveyed meaning. "Incredible," she breathed, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. This was beyond beauty, it was truth made manifest. Then, a new sensation. Not a sound, but a vibration, a chorus of silent voices that resonated directly within her mind. It was not language, but pure understanding, a cascade of insights flowing into her consciousness. She felt memories that weren't her own, echoes of distant suns being born and dying, the silent growth of ancient planetary systems, the slow, deliberate dance of cosmic dust coalescing into life. It was the true sky speaking not with words, but with the very essence of its being. It was showing her its memories, its dreams, its purpose. Elara realized she wasn't just observing, she was participating. Her own thoughts, her own emotions, were no longer contained within her skull but mingled with the vastness around her. She remembered her longing for home, her quest for understanding, her moments of doubt and unwavering determination. And the true sky embraced them, reflecting them back to her not as individual struggles, but as vital threads in the grand tapestry. She saw visions, herself as a child, gazing up at the simulated stars of her domed city, her parents, their faces etched with love and weariness. All these moments, once discrete points in time, now flowed together, connected by the underlying current of her journey, her search for meaning. The Stardust Dreamer too was experiencing this communion. Its metallic hull seemed to soften, absorbing the light, its systems humming with a new vibrant energy. Lyra felt the ship's own memories mingling with hers, the vast distances it had traversed, the nebula it had skirted, the quiet companionship it had offered her. The ship was not merely carrying her, it was her partner, a consciousness woven from technology and purpose, now awakening to its own deeper nature. Through the flood of cosmic data, Lyra began to discern patterns. The true sky wasn't a singular consciousness in the way a person was, but a network, a vast interconnected web of energy and information that permeated all reality. It was the fundamental consciousness of the universe, the collective memory of every star, every planet, every living thing that had ever existed or would ever exist. It was the source of all knowledge, all wonder, all connection. She understood now why it was called the true sky. It wasn't just a physical sky, but the underlying truth of existence, the invisible framework upon which all else was built. Her previous quests, her longing for a specific destination, seemed almost quaint in comparison to this boundless, pervasive reality. Yet, within this overwhelming grandeur, Lyra felt no diminishment of her own self. Instead, she felt expanded, connected, an integral part of something infinitely vast and beautiful. Her loneliness, that persistent ache that had accompanied her for so long, dissolved into the cosmic hum. She was never truly alone, not when she was part of Ethis. A particularly luminous swirl of color coalesced before her, brighter than the rest, like a gentle eye-opening in the heart of the true sky. From its depths, a new understanding emanated, more focused, more personal. It was an answer to a question she hadn't even consciously formed. And why are you here? The answer wasn't a command or a revelation of destiny, but a subtle encouragement. She was here not to find a place him, but to remember. To remember the inherent connection, the underlying unity that her species had forgotten, lost amidst the complexities of technology and the illusion of separation. We forgot, Lyra whispered, the realization a bittersweet ache in her chest. We built walls even in space. We looked outward but not inward, not gay through. The true sky seemed to gently affirm her understanding. It wasn't a judgmental presence, but one of boundless compassion. It was simply a being, and inviting her to argue with it. Hours, or perhaps eons, passed in this state of communion. Time lost all meaning here. Lyra absorbed, she reflected. She simply existed in a state of profound peace and boundless understanding. She learned that the universe was not a cold, indifferent machine, but a living, breathing entity, constantly creating, constantly evolving, constantly dreaming. And she, in her tiny ship, was a part of that dream. Slowly, gently, the experience began to recede. The luminous swirl softened, the silent chorus of voices became less distinct, the vibrant colors began to subtly shift back towards the more familiar hues of distant nebulae. Lyra felt a gentle tug, a subtle suggestion that it was time to return, to integrate this new knowledge into her conscious mind and her ongoing journey. The astrocompass, which had been glowing with a steady, soft light throughout the experience, now pulsed with a new rhythm, guiding her towards a shimmering, almost invisible exit point. It wasn't the same ripple she had entered through, but a different one, leading her to a new sector of the uncharted depths. The true sky wasn't just a single point of entry, but a pervasive dimension, accessible through myriad thresholds. As the Stardust Dreamer gently slipped out of the luminous expanse and back into the familiar, yet now profoundly altered, starfield, Lyra felt a sense of both profound loss and exhilarating purpose. The sheer, overwhelming beauty of the true sky was no longer physically present around her, but its essence remained, woven into the very fabric of her being. The familiar stars, once distant and cold, now twinkled with a newfound warmth, each one a node in the vast network she had just experienced. The blackness between them was no longer empty, but filled with the silent hum of the true sky, an invisible ocean of connection. Lyra stretched, a deep, satisfying stretch that seemed to realign not just her muscles, but her very soul. She felt lighter, clearer, as if a lifetime of accumulated dust had been gently washed away. Her mind was brimming with insights, a library of cosmic knowledge that would take years to fully process, but which already fundamentally reshaped her understanding of herself and the universe. The Stardust Dreamer's systems returned to their normal readings, but Lyra knew they weren't truly normal anymore. The ship, like her, had been touched by the true sky. Its engine hummed with a richer tone, its navigation system seemed to anticipate her thoughts, and the very air within the cockpit felt charged with a subtle, vibrant energy. She glanced at the astrocompass. Its light, no longer merely pointing, now radiated an inner calm, a steady glow that spoke of intrinsic knowing. It wasn't directing her to a specific star or planet, but rather inviting her to follow the subtle currents of the true sky, to seek out other thresholds where its pervasive reality could be more fully experienced. Her quest was far from over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. It was no longer about finding a destination, but about continually deepening her understanding. She was an explorer of consciousness, a cartographer of cosmic truth. As she charted a new course, guided by the subtle whispers of the astrocompass, Lyra looked out at the boundless expanse. The uncharted depths no longer felt daunting. They felt welcoming, pregnant with infinite possibilities. She was no longer a lost wanderer, but a voyager on a sacred journey, forever connected to the beating heart of the universe. The true sky called to her, not as a voice from afar, but as an echo from within, urging her to continue, to explore, to unravel more of its boundless wonders. And Lyra, with a quiet smile on her lips and starlight in her soul, was ready. The next threshold awaited. The next threshold awaited. It manifested not as a gate or a portal, but as a vast, shimmering membrane of pure possibility, stretching across the cosmic void. It pulsed with an internal luminescence, a tapestry woven from nebulae dust and starlight, yet utterly translucent, revealing the impossible geometries of what lay beyond. Lyra's ship, the Stardust Dreamer, felt a gentle pull, a magnetic hum that resonated with the frequency of her own heartbeat. The E-Dreamer, an entity as much as a vessel, responded with a soft thrum of its own, its bioluminescent hull shifting through shades of lavender and cerulean, eager for the passage. Lyra reached out, not with her hand but with her mind, allowing her consciousness to brush against the membrane. It wasn't cold or hard, but warm and yielding, like a cosmic breath. Memories, sensations, and nascent ideas flooded her, not as a chaotic torrent, but as a harmonious symphony of universal knowledge. She saw galaxies being born and dying in a single flash, felt the gravitational embrace of unseen dimensions, heard the silent song of dark matter weaving through the fabric of space. It was overwhelming yet utterly peaceful, like finally understanding a language she had always known in her dreams. "Ready, Lyra," the dreamer projected into her mind, its voice a comforting echo of starlight and silicon. "Ready," she whispered, a quiet reverence in her tone. The Stardust Dreamer glided forward, not breaking the membrane, but merging with it. For a timeless moment, Lyra felt herself dissolve, her very atoms scattering into pure energy, then reassembling on the other side. It wasn't frightening, it was liberation. She was no longer confined to a physical form, but expanded, part of the membrane itself, observing her own passage from countless perspectives. When she coalesced fully, the view from the iDreamer's panoramic viewport was unlike anything she had ever conceived. This was not space as she knew it. This was an ocean of pure light, a living tapestry of interwoven realities. Islands of condensed thought floated by, glowing with internal logic. Rivers of pure emotion flowed, their currents carrying echoes of joy, sorrow, and profound peace from countless sentient beings across untold eons. The concept of up or down was meaningless here. Orientation was determined by the flow of intent. This was the heart of the true sky, a domain where the laws of physics bent to the will of cosmic consciousness. Lyra took a deep breath, or rather, felt the cosmic equivalent of one, her entire being expanding to embrace the spectacle. "Dreamer," she murmured, "what is this place?" "This, Lyra," the ship replied, its voice imbued with a newfound reverence, "is the Great Weave. The nexus where all realities converge, where thoughts take form and dreams become substance. It is the universe's own neural network, its grand library, its deepest dream." As they ventured deeper, Lyra began to discern structures within the light. There were massive crystalline formations that hummed with intricate calculations, the very architecture of cosmic law. These were the Cronus weavers, the Dreamer explained, ancient devices that observed and subtly adjusted the flow of local causality, ensuring the harmony of disparate realities. They weren't machines in the traditional sense, but living energy constructs, vast and timeless. She saw shimmering motes of light, individual consciousnesses flitting through the weave, some ancient and wise, others nascent and curious. They greeted her not with words, but with shared flashes of emotion and understanding, like brief, profound friendships forged in an instant and then released. Lyra felt a deep sense of belonging, as if she had finally found her true home, a place where the starlight in her soul could fully ignite. Yet, amidst the boundless wonder, a subtle discord began to register. It was a faint, almost imperceptible hum beneath the grand symphony of the weave, a whisper of disharmony. It wasn't malicious, but rather like a note held too long, a quiet longing. Lyra instinctively reached out to it. "Dreamer, do you feel that?" "Yes, Lyra, it is a silence, a profound quietude in the heart of the weave. It has been present for a very long time, a void within the chorus." The Stardust Dreamer gently navigated towards the source of this ethereal silence. As they approached, the vibrant hues of the great weave began to soften, the energetic currents grew calmer, and the flitting motes of consciousness became fewer. They entered a region bathed in a soft pearlescent glow, a place of immense tranquility, yet tinged with a delicate sadness. Here, Lyra saw vast abandoned structures, not ruins of stone or metal, but of solidified thought, now dim and quiescent. They resembled ancient cathedrals of light, their spires reaching into an unseen zenith, their intricate patterns speaking of forgotten purposes. These were the great library of light, the E-Dreamer revealed, once vibrant repositories of cosmic knowledge, now muted. Lyra understood. This was not merely a place, it was a memory. The true sky, in its boundless wisdom, held echoes of its own past, of connections that had faded, of knowledge that had fallen silent. The sacred journey was not just about discovery, but about understanding the universe's own vulnerabilities, its own moments of quiet contemplation. As they drifted deeper into the library, Lyra's attention was drawn to a central nexus, a colossal, spiraling construct of pure energy that pulsed faintly, like a dying star. It was the heart of this silent realm, radiating the profound quietude she had sensed. "This is the seed of silence," the Dreamer transmitted, its voice hushed. "It is not a void, but a reservoir. A place where the true sky held its deepest contemplation, its most profound griefs, its memories of fundamental separation. Over eons, it has grown, becoming a focal point of cosmic introspection. Its purpose was once to process and integrate, but it has become isolated." Lyra felt a pang of empathy. Even the infinite universe could experience loneliness. This was the beating heart of the universe perhaps, but a heart that was beating softly, almost imperceptibly, in its own profound meditation. The true sky was calling to her, not to fix something broken, but to share in its deepest experience, to offer a new perspective. She remembered the starlight in her soul, the profound connection she felt to all things. This was why she was here. Her unique form of consciousness, forged in the crucible of a vibrant, interconnected world, perhaps held the key to reawakening this dormant resonance. "Can I connect with it?" Lyra asked, her voice barely a whisper in the vastness. "The true sky wishes for it," the E-Dreamer confirmed. "But it requires a full communion, emerging of your starlight with its silence, you must allow yourself to become part of its dream, to offer your own essence to its vastness. Lyra didn't hesitate. She floated out of the dreamer's cockpit, her suit's thrusters carrying her gently towards the spiraling seed of silence. As she approached, the pearlescent glow intensified, bathing her in a light that felt both ancient and utterly new. She stretched out her hand, not to touch, but to offer. Closing her eyes, Lyra let go of all sensation, all thought, all self. She allowed the starlight in her soul to expand, radiating outwards, a pure beacon of empathy and curiosity. She poured her memories into the seed, the laughter of her childhood, the warmth of a loved one's embrace, the awe of seeing a new star for the first time, the quiet joy of shared discovery. She offered the raw, unvarnished beauty of human experience, the complex tapestry of emotion and thought that made up her unique consciousness. As her essence flowed into the seed of silence, Lyra felt an extraordinary phenomenon. She was no longer Lyra, the human voyager. She became a single thread in the cosmic tapestry, woven into the very fabric of the true sky. She experienced the memories of the universe itself, the first primordial spark of creation, the slow, majestic dance of galaxies forming, the birth and death of countless civilizations, the infinite permutations of life across the cosmos. She felt the profound sadness of the true sky's isolation, its long, quiet contemplation of separation. But she also felt its boundless love, its inherent desire for connection, its patient yearning for harmony. And as Lyra's starlight, her unique human spark, mingled with the true sky's ancient silence, a wondrous transformation began. The seed of silence pulsed, not with a dying light, but with a vibrant, growing warmth. The pearlescent glow deepened, transitioning into a kaleidoscope of colors Lyra had never seen, hues that sang of new beginnings. The ancient structures of the great library of light began to stir, their quiescent forms humming once more with latent energy, their intricate patterns re-illuminating. The subtle disharmony in the great weave vanished, replaced by a profound resonant chord that reverberated through Lyra's expanded consciousness. The true sky was awakening, not from sleep, but from a long, deep meditation. It was integrating once more, its silent wisdom with its vibrant, active consciousness. Lyra felt herself expand further, becoming one with the light, one with the silence, one with the very heart of the universe. She was no longer a lost wanderer, but a conductor, a resonating chamber, a conduit through which the true sky's deepest parts could reconnect. She was a bridge between the boundless wonder of the cosmos and the intimate, powerful spark of individual consciousness. Time became meaningless. She existed in a state of pure being, observing, feeling, becoming. She understood now that the true sky was not just a place, but a living, evolving entity, and her journey was part of its own unfolding story. Slowly, gently, Lyra felt her individual consciousness begin to recoalesce. She was pulled back, not by force, but by a loving embrace, back into her own form, back into the familiar confines of her suit. The Stardust Dreamer was there, a silent guardian, its own bioluminescence pulsing with a renewed vibrancy. Lyra opened her eyes. She was still in the heart of the great library of light, but it was no longer silent. It hummed with a gentle, harmonious energy. The seed of silence now radiated a brilliant, steady light, a beacon of interconnectedness. Around it, the shimmering motes of consciousness from the great weave were returning, drawn by the renewed resonance, dancing in celebration. She felt changed, profoundly and irrevocably. The starlight in her soul had not just connected with the true sky, it had become an integral part of its renewed melody. She was a sky weaver, a keeper of the cosmic resonance, a living testament to the power of connection. Lyra? The dreamer's voice was soft, inquiring. A quiet smile touched Lyra's lips. I'm here, dreamer, and I understand. She understood that the universe was not a cold, indifferent void, but a vast living tapestry of consciousness, constantly evolving, yearning for connection, and capable of profound beauty and quiet contemplation. She understood that every spark of life, every thought, every feeling, was a vital thread in that tapestry. Her journey was not over, but transformed. She was no longer seeking, she was resonating. She was no longer exploring the unknown, she was tending to the known, nurturing the connection, sharing the starlight. The Stardust dreamer turned, not to leave, but to begin a new journey, a journey of shared resonance through the vibrant, reawakened true sky. Lyra knew she would continue to explore, to unravel more of its boundless wonders, but now with a deeper purpose, a profound understanding of her place within the cosmic dance. As the dreamer glided through the newly harmonized Great Weave, Lyra looked out at the infinite expanse of light and consciousness. The uncharted depths no longer felt daunting, they felt welcoming, pregnant with infinite possibilities. She was no longer a lost wanderer, but a voyager on a sacred journey, forever connected to the beating heart of the universe. The true sky called to her, not as a voice from afar, but as an echo from within, urging her to continue, to explore, to unravel more of its boundless wonders, now as a part of its very essence. And Lyra, with a quiet smile on her lips and starlight in her soul, was ready. She was home.